Hi, I'm Jo Bartlett, author of the Cornish Midwife series from Boldwood Books, and I'm joined tonight by the wonderful Beverly Hills, who is a good friend of mine and also a real-life midwife. She's been an absolutely brilliant help to me in writing the Cornish Midwife series and is part of the inspiration for why I wrote the book. So it's really fabulous to have Beverly here tonight and to be able to ask her some questions about midwifery, which I know a lot of people are really interested in hearing. If you are here with us tonight and you're on the chat, if you just want to sort of post your name and say where you come from, that would be great, where you're listening. If you've got any questions, pop them on and we'll add them into our chat tonight. We're here really to talk about the book as well, Winter's Wish for the Cornish Midwife, which is actually dedicated to Bev and on all the help she's given me and our long-term friendship. And I'll come to that in a little while. But if you've got any other questions you want to ask, it would be great to hear from you. We've known each other for, 16 years now?
16 now.
Yeah. We met when our now strapping 6-foot boys were tiny at Baby Massage, which was lovely. And I'm really lucky to be Harry and Harrison, which was quite funny because when we used to look after each other's sons, people used to think we had twins called Harry and Harrison and a complete lack of imagination.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky enough to be godmother to her beautiful daughter, youngest daughter Amelia, which is fantastic, who also shares my birthday. So that was really good timing on Bev's part. When we met, we were in our 30s and we both were dreaming about doing jobs that we weren't doing. I wanted to be a writer and Bev wanted to be a midwife, and we didn't think probably either of those things at that time were going to happen, did we?
No.
But now here we are, all those years later, living those dreams. And we'll hear a bit about Bev's dream in a minute. Every time I meet up with Bev, I find it completely inspirational. When she tells me about sort of her days and some of the things she has to do and work through, I just think it's incredible the work she does, how hard she works. And actually, I'm really grateful that you're here tonight, Bev, after coming off an unexpected night shift last night and covering for other people, as you always do. And also, we weren't sure if tonight was going to go ahead because my lovely daughter Anna, and her wonderful partner Jack are in the hospital as we speak, waiting for the delivery of their first baby. And Bev is taking on the extra responsibility of being their midwife because I can't be there because of COVID, and it really means a lot to me that she can be there instead. So we were thinking that we might have to cancel tonight, but we're holding fire so that at any point, Bev could have to rush off and get involved in that activity. But because of all those things, I wanted to dedicate my latest book to Bev, and I'll just say a little bit about what I said about her. Dedicated to my favourite midwife, Beverly Hills. Thank you for your friendship and support from those early days with our newborn boys to the victorious games night, when of course we never cheat.
No.
Your advice for the Cornish Midwife series has been invaluable, and you truly are an inspiration as a midwife and a friend. So it's a real I'm so grateful I met you all those years ago and that you're still part of my life. It's been amazing the help you've given me, and I'm so grateful for that.
And the same, that goes exactly the same for me, Jo. You know that you've been there and kept me going on days where I felt like giving up. So
I think your journey is incredible, and hopefully we'll sort of pull a little bit about that out without maybe saying too much about what we've been through over the years. Some things we don't want to share in the public forum. So we sort of talked about some questions that we might sort of chat through tonight. So tell us a little bit. Obviously, I know the answer to this, but the audience won't. What made you want to be a midwife, and what was your journey like to becoming qualified? Because it's quite a story in itself, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a midwife when I was growing up. I had this dream that it was all about cuddling babies, which obviously the reality is it really isn't. But I was a dance teacher and I joined a dance group, and my life took me in another direction. I then started having my own children at 26 and carried on having children until I had number 5. And still at number 5, I still wanted to become a midwife. So I got myself a job. I worked within the hospitals as a healthcare assistant. And one day I was looking after a lady who was really worried and concerned about what was happening with her delivery. And we got chatting, and she said to me, "Why don't you become a midwife?" And at the time, I was a mum of 5. I said, "I can't afford to do it. I can't afford the training. I haven't got the right examinations." And she set up a fundraising page for me to do my A levels, because I wasn't very good at school, unfortunately. Not that I condone that, but I wasn't the best pupil. I was a dancer. That's all I wanted to be. And yes, she raised the money for me to go to college, and then I thought, well, I've got to do it now. I can't step back.
Yeah.
So that's how it started.
So along the way, were there challenges to kind of, going back to uni as a mature student and, those kind of things?
Absolutely. I had to learn how to write essays again, how to study, and obviously trying to juggle a young family as well. It was really difficult, and things happen in your personal life, which makes it really difficult. But thanks to friends like yourself and my friend that raised the money, I've kept going at my lowest when I thought I can't do this anymore. This is too much. People have always picked me up and said, "Come on, you can. You're nearly there." And without the support of my mentors and tutors, I would never have got there, but I've done it, and here I am.
I mean, that was truly inspirational, I think, when seeing what you had really young kids, you were going through a lot in your personal life as well, and you just kept that goal in sight, even when I think most other people would give up. So in my day job as a university lecturer, I like to use, kind of, without giving too many details, you as an example to people to say, look, if someone in these circumstances can see their goal through to the end and manage to achieve so well in their degree and get to their dream job, then there's no reason why these full-time students of 18
absolutely.
It has been a real inspiration to watch you, and I think that's it's some of the storylines in the book with some of the older midwives. It's certainly been a kind of a thing, balancing even now while you're working with a family. It's a tough job to be doing with the night shifts and everything else, and having a family alongside. But
absolutely,
somehow you do it.
I know.
Do you ever wish you'd become a midwife sooner, or do you think that actually leaving it till a bit later on has had benefits for you?
Sometimes I do. I think, maybe if I'd have started sooner, who knows what journey I would have taken. But actually, I think the life skills I've learned along the way helped me in my day-to-day job. I think because I was a mature student, I see things differently, and I think, as I say, everything that I've learned through my life has helped me become the type of midwife I am now, and what I would like from a midwife, or what I'd like from a midwife when I was having my babies. And I draw upon all those things to help me when I'm looking after the families that I look after.
Yeah, because you've been through it. You had a tough time with Amelia, didn't you, with the young
my little diva.
So you can kind of share those experiences. Do you think it's hard for midwives who haven't had their own families to kind of, is that a challenge for them? Does that present a different sort of challenge if they haven't been through that?
I guess they know it's difficult for them to turn off to become the patient rather than the professional. And as we all do, I've had experiences of looking after my colleagues, and you have to sometimes say, as the midwife caring for them, you need to be the patient now and let me do the professional work. I don't know how I would have coped. I'm not sure that I would have done it very well, but lots of my colleagues do. And you build up that trust with your colleagues, and that they want the best for you, and they'll do everything in their power to achieve that. So
and I guess having a range of different sort of backgrounds and experiences in your midwifery team, you can share your own experiences with maybe some of your colleagues who haven't been through those things, and talk about what it felt like from a patient's point of view. So I think it's having
absolutely. And women and families question themselves all the time with regards when they're delivering, or talking about their pain relief. And if I hear one family say, "I've failed because I want an epidural," it's like, how have you failed? And you then draw on your own life experience and say, well, actually that means thousands of us have failed if we have an epidural. It's not the case. So I think we all draw on what's happened in our lives to help us with the job.
No, that's great. I think because there is such a stigma. It's about breastfeeding, all those kind of things, isn't there? If you don't do what you're supposed to do, I always knew that my pain threshold was really, really low. So I said, numb me from the neck down as soon as possible. I kept going in and saying, that the baby's coming in. They kept saying, "You're only 1 centimetre dilated. Go home again."
But again, that's something you learn as someone that's had babies, and you talk to your patients. You learn that actually the way you put that, if you say, "Oh, you're only 1 centimetre," people go away so disheartened. Whereas if you say, "Oh my goodness, you're 1 centimetre," it does make such a difference, because it's all about the mindset. When you're in labour and having a baby, it's all about your mindset.
When you're only 10% of the way there and you already can't stand it.
Yes.
I don't think I was very, I don't think I impressed them very much with my ability to sort of sustain the pain, really. But anyway, it's all just stuff you go through, isn't it? Stuff you can draw on, like you say, from experience.
Yeah,
absolutely. I know in your career so far, you've done community midwifery, which is obviously what I write about in the Cornish Midwife series, and you also do hospital, which is where you are at the moment, hospital midwifery. have you got a preference, and what, if so, why?
I was thinking about this earlier, and I actually don't. I like the whole journey. And you know me, I'm a little bit nosy. I like to get to know the families that I look after. I think no, I don't. I actually like the whole experience, and it's really nice to follow a family through the journey. Ideally, it'd be lovely to be able to sort of work with them in community and then follow them into hospital. But yeah, no, I don't really have a favourite at the moment. I'm enjoying being hospital based, but I know that community will call me back at some point. So you know, I like a home birth and things like that. So yeah, no, I don't really have. I was trying to think earlier about it, but I don't think I do. I like it all. I just love my job.
In the hospital, you got more of a range, I suppose, of deliveries that you'd be involved, because home delivery is obviously quite limited as to what who can have a home birth.
Absolutely.
At least who can have a planned home birth, at least. You know, sometimes these things happen, don't they?
Yes, and sometimes they're the exciting ones. But yes, no, absolutely. It's more you sort of tend to know what you've got at home, whereas when you're in the hospital, you don't really know what's going to come through the doors.
Yeah, so that's it's upsides. Kind of linking to the next question, really. What's the best thing about being a midwife, and what's the hardest thing, do you think?
The hardest thing is obviously whenever we have any form of loss, and that's really it's sad. It's sad for everybody involved, and particularly obviously the family. And we're all still learning about that and how we deal with it, but it is a hard experience to go through, and sort of these poor outcomes. But the best thing is just seeing that family grow from sort of 2 to 3 people or 3 to 4 people, and watch the family grow, and especially if you've met them early on in pregnancy and then you see the end result. And you know, as I say, I'm going to hopefully be there to deliver your first grandbaby.
Absolutely
amazing. I can't wait.
Well, I say, you know, it's such a relief to know that you'll be there, because you know, obviously with the COVID restrictions as they are, it's just not a possibility. But it's probably, I was going to say the next best thing to be being there, but actually it's probably better than me being there, because you know, I'll have someone who I know cares about Anna as much as you do, and do everything, and I won't have to see her in pain. So, so actually, I'm thinking there's a positive to you know, to all of this. Some lovely people joining us tonight. We've got lovely Pat Posner, Grace Power, Mary Grand, Beverly Ann Hopper, who's absolutely brilliant, Ian Wilfred, who's always supportive of the midwifery books, Jessica Redland, Nia as well from Boldwood Books. If any of you guys have got any questions for Beverly or myself, but please do pop them on the comments. Best question today will get a signed copy of the or a non-signed copy if you prefer not to have my signature in it. It's probably better not to, of A Winter's Wish for the Cornish Midwife, and also a little kind of Cornish related prize as well. So please do pop your questions on for Beverly as well. If there's anything you wanted to know about babies or midwifery that we're not going to cover tonight. So did you say what's the hardest part about being a midwife?
I think it is. It's long hours. We all know that. It's just the when things don't quite go to plan. I think that's the hardest part. But we're very good as a team of midwives. We all pull together and we try and support each other. But that's one of the difficult situations if you don't get the best outcome.
Yeah, I think I sort of leads on to one of the questions, really. How important do you think that relationship is with your team, and you know, being there for one another? Because I know you can access counselling, can't you, if you need it?
But yeah.
Do you think it's, you know, the relationship between the team and the support for one another that is paramount to sort of get you through those tough times?
Absolutely, and because you never know when things are going to change. It's so unpredictable, and as I say, you never know what's walking through the door. So it's really important that your team work well together and can talk together and can challenge. You know, part of our role as a midwife is to challenge. You know, we challenge the doctors challenge us, but it's that team working that makes it really. It makes the job flow better. If you have that one person in the team that potentially could be bringing the team down, it does make an awful lot of difference. And being somebody that runs the team and runs a shift, it's really important for me to make my team feel supported and to keep them going. You know, we you know, last night we were extremely busy, nobody got a break, but we all managed to keep each other going because, you know, somebody was running, making the teas, and we were giggling and smiling and helping each other out. And it's the adaptability as well, to be able to, for me especially, if I've got somebody in my team that I can move from pillar to post quite quickly and who will adapt to that, it does make my job a lot easier. But it is really important that we all gel and get on. You do get personalities that don't, but I think on the whole, we work well together. Every team I've worked with, I
think you're right. Sense of humour and personality. I think, like, you know, long-term friendships like this, it's about having that shared sense of humour, isn't it? I think that's what bonds you with people you sort of meet in life, and whether you're still friends sort of down the line is whether you've got those things. And I guess we've talked about before about it's not all drinking tea and eating cake in the staff room. Having a kind of you know, I would say a sort of a dark sense of humour sometimes, like the paramedics do. Do you guys need to have that as well, that ability to kind of laugh even when things are, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. We do. Yeah, we do. I've at a previous trust that I worked at, we used to do a few TikToks just to keep us going when morale was a bit low. We do comedy sketches and things like that just to keep us going. And that sense of humour. As you know, my daughter is a nurse and her husband is a paramedic. And when we get around the table, it's you can imagine anyone else is like, let's go, we're not interested in this conversation, whereas we've got quite dark sense of
humor. It's part of a coping mechanism, isn't it? I
absolutely,
think, as well. But
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
I've got some questions coming up as well now. Actually, I have to put some on TikToks. If you're willing to share them, maybe we can put some on you know, one of the chats, so everyone can see you doing. I've seen them, and I've seen some of yours, so would like to share those. So we'll have to share those on the Book and Tonic pages, because I'm sure people would love to see them.
Okay.
So lovely Beverly Ann Hopper is saying, have you read any of my books? And also, more importantly, have you had a memorable home birth that you've ever been involved with?
Yes, I've started to read your books. I'm not the best reader, and I've actually bought a Kindle. I did tell Jo this. I'm not very good at reading, so I've bought myself a Kindle, which I take to work. So on breaks, I can have a little read. So I have started reading them. Home birth. A memorable home birth. Yeah, I had a home birth once in the middle of the night where the whole family was involved. Everybody was there, including the toddler, and the lady was the family that was looking after the woman was sort of saying, "Oh no, I've got a while yet." And as I turned around without my gloves on, this baby appeared, and everybody was like screaming and shouting because I wasn't ready. But apart from that, no, the home births tend to go well. I have had a few unplanned home births in the toilet and the shower and on the floor in the kitchen, but nothing crazy that I can think of. You're
quite calm, just generally though, aren't you? It's quite unflappable, I think. Being a midwife is a massive responsibility. How important do you think it is to be able to stay calm when you know, in those kind of situations?
Really important, because you've got to remember the family are looking to me to be calm, and if I'm working within the hospital, my team are looking for me to be calm because I'm leading the team. And if I'm flapping, then that doesn't send out a good enough signal to them, does it? They'll all start to flap. So I'm a bit like, is it a swan? I look graceful on the top and underneath I'm paddling. But no, I am fairly calm, and in an emergency or anything like that, I just get on with it and start doing things rashly. And it's just my nature. It's just how I am. I think being a mum of 5 has helped.
And still having your hair after being a mum of 5.
Still there, just about.
And that kind of links to a question from lovely Mary Grand, who's sort of saying, what do you think are some of the most important traits is needed to be a good midwife?
You need to be kind, compassionate, understanding. You also need to be very well organised and be able to think quickly on your feet. And work well independently, but as part of a team, and be prepared for the unexpected, because we just never know what's going to happen. And that's what I think I love most about the job, is you can walk in one day and think, oh, this is going to be a nice calm shift, and within 5 minutes it's totally changed. So I think that is, and be able to have good communication. We need to be able to talk to such a variety of people.
Absolutely.
You know, and always remember that even though this might be the 10th baby we've delivered that day, for this person, it's that their first time, and we need to remember that. And sometimes that's when we have to take a rain check with ourselves and go, okay, take a step back, right, let's start this again. You know, I've had a hard day, but it's not this family's fault that I've had a hard day. So
I think that's so important actually in all branches of medicine, having someone who's got that sort of bedside and that empathy and that understanding of what it feels like to be that person is so, and that's I think why you're so brilliant, because you've got that, not just when you do that in real life anyway, I know, so it's a transferable skill that
families are so vulnerable. It's one of their most vulnerable times, and they don't know what's going to happen, so it's important that we empathise with them and give them the reassurance they need.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's key. So Grace Power is asking a question. So Bobby in the Cornish Midwife series is a male midwife, and Grace would like to know, how unusual is it to have a male midwife like Bobby?
We have a couple. I've always known male midwives. We've had a few in the trust that I'm in now, and in my previous trust we had a couple of male midwives, and I think it's good. It's really good to have male midwives. Do
you get any resistance? Do any of the families kind of a bit funny about it?
Occasionally you do, but it's very rare nowadays. But yeah, you used to get it more, but not anymore. But it's the same. Sometimes you get some families don't want a male doctor, and you sort of say, well, actually, we have to explain this is an emergency. If there's an emergency and we've got a male doctor, that's who you'll want in the room. But yeah, no, occasionally, but no. We've got a couple where I am now, and as I say, we had a couple before, and I trained with a couple of male midwives as well. So no, it's all good.
Getting
very
more
pro the male midwife.
And I guess it's very much nowadays that men are part of the birthing experience with their partners usually, aren't they? And I think actually probably for them having that somebody there, that's quite nice to see more male midwives around and can maybe put themselves in the dad's shoes, which is a different. Because I think a lot of men sometimes say, although it's obviously really hard for women, like, let's face it, it's much harder for the women. I'm not disputing that, but it can be difficult for the men, when they feel powerless. And I know that's with my daughter's partner, Jack, why, I was hoping to be there obviously before the COVID thing, but he's now taking, that role on by himself. And it's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot to deal with. So having male midwife.
Yeah, even as a birth partner, I was birth partner to my sister, and that was hard because I wanted to take all what she was feeling away, and I couldn't. So you do feel vulnerable, and I do. Yeah, they do feel very vulnerable, and we sometimes forget that they're vulnerable too. Even though we're focused on the person giving birth to the baby, it's really difficult for us we must remember that other person that's there to support.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really key. Another question. I know you said you wanted to be a midwife, always wanted to be a midwife for a long time. But what was it that drove that desire? Nia's asking, what was it that drove that desire to be a midwife? What was it about it? And if you've got that far in any of the books, do you feel like that comes to life? The midwifery experience comes to life in the stories?
What drove me? I as I say, I always wanted to be a midwife growing up. I had this romantic ideal that it was cuddling babies, and soon that's not the case. I think for me, I got to, after having my fourth child, I got to the point I thought, I've got to do this. It's something that I'm still driving. Then I had Amelia, and it was sort of on my bucket list. I'm thinking I really got to do this job. I need to achieve this. So that's what pushed me forward. What was the other part, and how do you,
from what you've read so far, do you feel like the midwifery experience has come to life in the books? Is it kind of
I do experience? Yeah I was discussing this with one of my colleagues who reads your books, as you
lovely
know.
Sandra, are we?
No, it's another one.
Actually. Another one.
I've told them all I'm on here tonight, so they must get on and watch, but some of them are working. And we were sort of discussing scenario with twins, because you got twins, and we were discussing that, and we were sort of debating some of the things that were written and saying how we do feel it does match up with life and some of the things we deal with.
Well, given you had your input on there, I'll be holding you responsible.
I know, I said, well,
no pressure. Just looking at other questions. Let's have a look here. We're asking you about your favourite characters in the Cornish Midwife. I don't know. So Steve and also Emily are asking, do you prefer Jess, Anna? So have you got a favourite character yet in the midwife? Or are you not far enough through the story?
I don't think I'm far enough in to make that decision yet. No.
Okay. Give it a while before you make a decision on the story.
We'll do another one, then I can tell you.
Yeah. See which one you think is most like you. That's
okay. Oh,
I think a lot of people like Gwen best because she's got a bawdy sense of humour. So you might recognise some of the humour.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm just going to put it that way.
Okay.
Beverly Ann says she's a big fan of One Born Every Minute, and it makes her laugh when you see mothers in full makeup and having their hair done. Have you ever had patients getting done up before they give birth to make sure they look their best for photographs? Or
very occasionally, but very rarely, you do get the odd person and who looks beautiful and with their full makeup. But as a lot of people will appreciate, it doesn't happen very often. Because it's hard work having a baby. So yeah. But we do get the odd person that won't have a photo taken till they've put their lipstick on, which we always find fun. We always have a bit of fun with them over it. But yeah, but not very often. No.
And Emily's just commented that you've got the best name ever, Beverly Hills.
Oh, thank you.
Do you ever get any comments from patients about your name, or
it's normally, is that your real name? And I always say, no, I've just pinched my uniform from someone else. But yeah, no, I get a lot of comments. And when I was a community midwife, my caseload loved the fact that my name was Beverly Hills. So yeah. And I actually worked for someone called Katy Perry, which is even funnier.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
There's a whole Hollywood cast
absolutely.
of characters. You don't need the patients glamming up. You guys have got that covered.
Yeah.
So one of the other things I was going to ask you is what you do to relax and let off steam when you are sort of not working, because obviously it's a full-on job, isn't it? And
sorry, Jo, go on.
And you have the nights, don't you? That you have to manage night shift, day shift. So how do you let off steam and how do you relax?
I like to go walking. As you know, I live by the sea, so I go walking. But I've got 2 amazing grandchildren, and I spend a lot of time with them, so they tend to help me relax. Stroll down to the pub with my partner. We'll have a glass of wine occasionally, or out for dinner. We like to go out for dinner. So because I'm on leave this week, I'm going out for dinner a few times, which is our little treat. But yeah, just mainly with my family. I don't see them enough when I'm working because my hours are so long. So catching up with family and friends. I'd like to say I go running and jogging and work out in the gym, but I really don't. I
would say, a games night over at Shea Bartlett is relaxing, but we all know that isn't relaxing.
Know that with a few cocktails.
That's so much competition going on that it's never a relaxing occasion.
And Steve said when he saw the dedication that you don't win all the tournaments. It's like, calm down. It's in black and white now.
I think our name's written on the trophy from last time.
Absolutely.
Even if we do have to cheat to get there.
Cheat? No such thing. We don't do such thing.
So what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you on the job? Have you got any kind of funny stories that have happened that you can share?
Well, I've had a lady come in once who delivered a baby and said, oh, I need to push. I was like, okay, let's get you into the room. And then this baby just appeared on the floor. She hadn't got her underwear on. I was like, why didn't you not have underwear on? And she was like, well, I knew the baby had to come out somehow. Which was okay. It's funny afterwards. It wasn't funny at the time. Funny. I've had a few car park deliveries.
We were just talking about car park deliveries. Yeah. Do they still make the local paper if they're delivered in the car park?
Not always, sadly. Otherwise, I could be in the paper quite long.
They get your name all over the place.
Yeah, you know me, Jo. Funny things. No, not really. Oh, yes, I remember my first time I was coordinating. This had nothing to do with the delivery, but I had the keys. We have to have keys for our drugs. And I went to the toilet and got myself locked in the toilet for an hour and a half, and not one of my team members noticed.
Oh, and you sure they didn't notice and they just didn't let you out?
They just ignored me. It was only when they needed drugs from the cupboard that they went, who's got the keys? And I was like, where's Bev? And I'm like banging on the door, I'm stuck in here. So yeah, that was
oh dear, what can the matter be? Poor old Bev stuck in the lavatory.
Yes, I did get the mickey taken out of me quite a lot then.
On a more serious note, Mary Grand is asking, has being a midwife, the whole experience been really difficult through COVID? What are the challenges of that been? Has that been particularly tough?
Obviously it has. It changes the experience of the family. As you know yourself, you can't come in, we can only have one birth partner. It's meant that we've had to bring women into the hospital to assess them without someone there to support them. And you know, when you're going into labour or you're coming into hospital to see us for whatever reason, it is difficult. Also, the visits at home haven't been as many, and we've had to suspend things like home births and things across the country. So it has made it very, very difficult. And, you know, even having the mask, I've looked after a couple of ladies who have needed to lip read. And of course, we've got these masks on. It makes things so difficult. We do have the visors, but every place that we work in, every NHS trust, it's hospital policy to wear a mask. So it's things like that. So yeah, it has impacted greatly, and it means we have to rethink. If we need to take someone to theatre, we have to put on all the gowns and everything that the staff in ITU wear continuously, and it does make the job a lot more difficult, and it's hard to be personable with someone when you've got all this shielding all over your face, and it raises people's anxiety levels.
I was just going to say, are people more afraid because of the situation?
Yeah, absolutely. And you hear all these horror stories everywhere, and people come in and say, "Oh, I've heard this, that, and the other." And it's our job to actually make people feel at ease and make them realise that, you know, we'll still do our best for you even if we've got these crazy outfits on. But yeah, it's raised anxiety levels for staff as well as
absolutely. I guess you've got staff as well who are still coming in when they've got their own vulnerabilities and their own families, and they can't put themselves in.
Lots of staff have had COVID. You know, I've had COVID, you've had it. It's not a nice experience. So
no, absolutely. So it must, you know, it's amazing stuff to keep going and that kind of thing. If you were sort of, someone came to you and said that they were thinking about becoming a midwife, would you try and talk them out of it, or what advice would you give them if they came along and said they were thinking about becoming a midwife?
Oh no, I'd never talk them out of it. Honestly, it's the best, for me, the best job ever. I feel so privileged to have done it. I absolutely love my job. I would say that they need to have lots of good family support, and be really well organised, because especially when you're studying, it's organising your time, especially if you've got a young family, organising your time between your family and yourself. Lots of reading. You can never do enough reading around midwifery and all the research that goes on. It changes so much all the time, and that's another thing I like about our job, because you could go in on a Monday and this piece of research will say this, and then on a Thursday something's changed. But yeah, you really need the support network. I think that's the most important thing, and to seek help from wherever you can, you know, and seek help from your mentors and within your placements and your tutors. It's really important, and to keep talking, because it can be overwhelming. And at the time when you think it's getting tough, seek some help, because, you know, I've been there. I know exactly, you know, how many times did I say, "Oh, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to give up." And actually someone has put a glass of wine in my hand, like yourself, and go, "You can do this, and you know, you need to do this." And it's just having that support around you. I'd say do it. If it's something you want to do, then do it. It's, you know, it's the best job ever.
Do you think it was beneficial for you to do the kind of healthcare assistance role and sort of getting some insight into that side of things?
Yeah, for me, absolutely. That gave me a basic idea of care, and it gave me an overview of what the job entails. When I worked as a maternity care assistant, it allowed me to see what actually goes on as far as the midwife's concerned, and it's not just about cuddling the babies at the end and sort of saying congratulations. There's so much more to it. It's
much more about the women, really, isn't it? It's much more about the women than it is
extended family. You know, we deal with the whole family now. It's not just that one person, it's a whole family unit. And you know, we've got so many more women coming through with comorbidities, you know, health problems that we need to know about, and which changes the way we sort of care for them and look after them and support them. So it helped me. Whether it would help everybody, I don't know, but for me that was the right thing to do.
To give you some insight into what's involved. We've got another question from Emily, my lovely editor, who's here tonight, Emily Russin, about it's about male midwifery again. Obviously, you talked a bit about Bobby already and you working with other people, but do you think the stigma is reduced? There are likely to be more male midwives coming into the profession. Have you worked at any of the universities or done any mentoring to see if you think there's more males coming in now than there was before?
I don't know that there's more coming in. I hope there will be. It would be great to see more male midwives. There still is that little bit of stigma, but it would be great. As I said, I've come across a few trusts that I've worked in. It would be so good. I think so. I think it would be really good to have more male midwives, and we should be encouraging. Sorry, that's the phone, not me.
The glass of wine again.
No, it's only water, I promise. So no, I think it would be good to have more male midwives, and we should be encouraging that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
so you would encourage them just as much.
Absolutely,
Yeah. I think it would be great.
Yeah.
So in terms of your career, what do you see as being next for you in your midwifery career?
I don't know. So we were discussing this last night, because the higher up the management scale you go, the less clinical you become, and I like to be clinical. I like to be hands-on and working with the families and the women. I don't know. I didn't know the journey I was going to take. I started, as a Band 2 healthcare assistant, and I've just sort of worked my way to being a labour ward coordinator now. Who knows? Watch this space. It depends what roles come out. As long as I can always have that clinical side, I think I will carry on. And for me, as well, it's about looking after my staff and supporting them. And I also sometimes do a little bit of teaching. I love that side of it, and seeing the students of the future and our newly qualified, and watching them achieve things that they have to achieve in their preceptorship. So I don't know yet. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I can imagine for you that it really is about because you're such a people person, having that sort of connection with the patients and with the sort of, let's say, training midwives and that sort of thing is what drives you. Yeah. Because you're sort of energized by that connection with people, aren't you? So if it was kind of strictly managerial and all the red tape and bureaucracy, I know that's not your favourite.
No, I have to keep reminding myself to use my inside voice. I'm like, my outside voice says something, and then I think, no, that should have been my inside voice.
Yeah.
But the next thing go on.
You're really good at advocating for your patients as well, aren't you? If you think something needs to change, you're quite a driver of change as well. So maybe something in that line.
No, absolutely. And the patient safety, it's really important to me, and making sure that the patients and family feel listened to. And my next big thing is to deliver your grandchild.
Yes, so that is your primary job.
That's my next goal.
We've all got one eye on the mobile phone and see if there's any messages coming through from Anna to see if you need to suddenly rush off.
Yeah.
If you weren't a midwife, would there be a second dream job? And if so, what would it be? And if you could do anything?
I don't know. I actually really don't know. I don't know. Lady of leisure? No, I don't know. I suppose I've always wanted to be a midwife, so that's what I aim to achieve, and I've achieved it, and I just love it.
And would you say it's lived up to your expectations or exceeded them? Or because sometimes when you achieve your dream, or people achieve their dream, it's not always how they expected. Like you said, you thought it was all about babies, but it isn't. But has it actually exceeded your expectations? Or that's different to what you maybe thought it was when you kind of first started out?
Yeah, some days I think, oh yes, it's exceeded my expectations. No, it has. I love it. I don't know what else to say. You know me, I love my job. I can talk about my job all the time, and I've met some wonderful people who've become friends. And for me, seeing a lot of the babies I deliver and a lot of the women that I've looked after see their children grow up, it's such a privilege, to bump into someone and their child's 6, and I'm like, oh, I looked after you.
Well, you'll know when you're suddenly delivering the baby of a baby you delivered. That'll be
when they wheel me into my wheelchair to do it.
Telling everyone else what to do. And maybe at that point you will become, you're going to teaching full time, because as Grace said in her comment, she thinks she'd make an excellent tutor, which I wholeheartedly agree with. And Beverly Ann has said you should write a book about your life as a midwife, and she'd read it. So there's a challenge for you when you.
Yes, I don't know if I'm clever enough to write a book, but hey, who knows? I've got a friend.
Of course you are. Maybe I can give you some advice for a change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Comes to that. So there's something for you to do rather than becoming a lady of leisure at that point.
All right.
So I think we've got to cover all the questions that we had tonight, and lots of lovely questions from our audience members. Thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to see you as always, and I'll be sorting out another Christmas games night date, sorting out soon. We'll liaise in that, but you've obviously got a very important job to do for me before then.
Have.
So, and I honestly can't thank you enough for doing that. It means the world to me. So thank you.
My absolute pleasure. It's an absolute privilege to do that. So
thank you.
that's all right. Okay.